Hi everybody, it's Russ from My Hammers 11. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hit the bell notification so you're notified, obviously, of any time we've got new content coming out. Lots of great guests. I know I say that every episode, but it's very, very true, including today's guest. You'll recognise him. He's obviously, at the moment, he's the quizmaster for the Hammers at Home quiz, which is getting a lot easier.
I like the way you said at the moment, like I might be getting kicked off any minute.
At the moment, because obviously
for now,
I mean, you know, the questions are getting easier, aren't they? They're less mastermind, more sort of tipping point / chase, I think, in terms of questions. But also, go on, Chris, come on, man.
Well, I don't want to pull back the curtain on the showbiz aspect of West Ham, but I don't actually write the questions. But they are objectively getting a bit easier. But that's because they were so hard in those initial weeks.
They were. I mean, you know, we all know Rob does the questions, but
I mean, do tweet your abuse to Rob Pritchard on Twitter.
Rob Pritchard, exactly. Yeah. He'll be linked in the description below. But also, Chris does loads of other stuff. Obviously, for those of you who remember when we had live football and we'd play at a stadium, at the London Stadium. Chris was he's one of the match day presenters there, and obviously does all the halftime games. And you know, I prefer Batak. I love the beat it Batak, to be honest. It's quite funny, the kissing me and just watching them actually getting 0.
I said beat the Batak after the last time it was done. I said what I'd like to do is like just take, it was on wheels. I'd like to wheel it out of the stadium and chuck it in the canal, and they can just be there for decades.
I nicked that idea for a conference I was running. So like,
it was your idea. I didn't know that.
No, it wasn't my idea. I nicked it back. So I saw it. I thought that's great. So I got one made up. And apparently I was talking to the guy and it was the same sort of board, machine board. I don't know what you call it as a thing. But basically the top score he'd ever seen was 70 something, and it was by Jensen Button, because they use it for reaction stuff. And like, you know, we get a season ticket holder come out and get 5 or whatever, just put a silly code.
Jensen Button should have gone down the Hammers and applied.
He should do.
Cleared up.
He'd have got that sort of that whatever the prize was, a signed shirt or something like that. But also Chris does loads of other stuff. You know, he's obviously podcasts. Quickly, Kevin, Will He Score podcast with Josh Widdlecombe and Michael Marden. Absolutely cracking, honestly. You know, there's nothing decent on the telly to watch. You've all watched Tiger King now. Crack on with that, because it's brilliant, particularly for my era and Chris. All 90s football, absolutely amazing. Obviously, the new one, Footballer's Guide to Football, with our very own Carlton and Marlon, which is brilliant. Get some cracking guests on there. Obviously, Carlton and Marlon's phone book. And so,
I know, it's been opened up. We've got Joe Cole on next week. That'd be exciting. I've already recorded it. It was great. A lot of fun, that.
That'd be great. It's Chris Scull, by the way, if you hadn't realised. We did the intro. But
What an intro.
What an intro. God, it took 3.5 minutes, but it doesn't matter. That's the worst. But anyway, and also, for those of you who don't know, obviously me and Chris, we technically worked together at West Ham, but we've never actually met.
I know, never in real life. Only digitally.
I know, because Chris is down
there. We still haven't met, technically, have we? We're like, this is like a weird sort of Zoom first date. I think I'm going to get Fred from the restaurant come in and see what I want for my drinks order. But and I already feel like I'm going to go for a second date. I'm in.
Do you know what I think?
Maybe even third base. Who knows?
Oh no! Wow. Both our wives are on meetings next door, by the way. Anyway, the idea of this, obviously, got nothing currently to talk about in terms of football at the moment, so it's all about memories and also going through and talking about sort of your Hammers 11 as well. So we've got lots of different people all over the world, lots of different ages, and so it's really nice to get all these stories together. So for you, Chris, obviously, you know, massive West Ham fan, we all know that. What would you say would be sort of your earliest memory of West Ham?
Undoubtedly, Bobby Moore dying. That was just around the time I first started going to the games. And it's funny. I was thinking the other day, like, I vividly remember the first time I came out the West Stand lower where I was sat, and you just see that green pitch. It was so bright, like being on acid or something. It was so vibrant. And then, I remember that it was in February, so obviously everyone's in dark grey overcoats, and just the sadness and the smell of cigarettes kind of wafting across the terraces. And they brought out that floor on number 6. So that I've gone back over the season reviews, and I've started in '92.
Same as me.
It's been so good to go back, and I found myself just looking at old pictures of the South Bank and the North Bank, and remembering the kind of the merchandise cabin that used to sit outside the West Stand, and those crap little West Ham United lights, and how crap those stands used to be, the West Stand and North, and just sort of like pictures from around the ground and how like horrible it was. And I just find myself missing that so much.
Yeah, it's true.
Everything is so polished now, the match day experience, and that those like everything being a bit crap. There's something I miss about it. There's little the advertising hoardings and the kids behind the goals, and the pitches being disgraces, like just being
exactly.
bogs. I miss all that.
I love them. I remember someone did tweet a picture about the porter cabin, and like I remember like porter cabin, you couldn't go in one way, and it was always like this. It was really tight, and you walked down sort of Green Street, and you didn't know what meat was being cooked, but it was a nice smell, wasn't it?
Hey, that was the case in 2016.
Yeah.
That's not like if you want dodgy meat, you can still go out there and find it.
I'm pretty sure you can still find it. Yeah, definitely. But
it's funny that porter cabin. Like I can still remember the smell. Do you remember the smell? It was like plasticky, like new shirt or something, like almost like the inside of a new car or something.
And you had to
that porter cabin was so exciting.
It was because you had to remember
everything was behind the desk.
Yeah, can I have a look at that? And they'd like send out, like I don't know, like on those stickers, those long stickers you used to get. You just look at it and go, "No, I'm all right, thanks." It's like a 50p sticker, wherever it was. No, brilliant. No, I know what you mean. I started the same season, and I went back and watched it because we've had Robert Banks on it, and he's trying really hard because he keeps getting taken down on YouTube because it's not his content.
Oh, really?
But yeah, 92, 93.
Because I know Robert Banks has put them all on YouTube. I wonder if I can claim any credit for that, because I emailed him and said, I really want to start watching all these season reviews again. You'd have the 92, 93. And so he sent it to me before they were on YouTube. So I started watching, and then I saw him upload them to YouTube, and that has just consumed my lockdown. It's been so much fun.
It's brilliant.
Do you know what, as well, like the revisionism of history, there's some play, like I've met Ludo, lovely man, but he was not a good goalkeeper for us. I can't believe, in my head, I just think about the kind of Sky games under the lights where the Man United at the end of the 94, 95 season where he's pulling off all these saves. When you watch a whole season of action, you just see the goals we're conceding. You're like, I think he was the reason we were bad. How did I never notice that?
I know, and I got, to be honest, I had a newfound respect for someone like Tim Breaker, because in that 92, 93 season, when he was and beyond, he came forward quite a lot and was like, scored a few goals and stuff like that, and talking to players afterwards, like we had Kenny Brown on here and a few, and he was saying, he was the complete sort of footballer, he was, and I never really thought of him like that, but I was like, he was brilliant for us. But Tim Breaker, it's absolutely brilliant. So much fun.
Steve Lomas, you just said, I just find myself noticing how much better certain players are than I remembered. Tim Breaker, like you say, Steve Lomas is another one where you're like, wow, he's in the heart of everything. Clive Allen, I never remember Clive Allen being that good, but when you watch that 92, 93 season review, he's scoring every week.
Yeah,
I think his goals to game ratio is like 1 every 2 games or something like that. I mean, how many times has West Ham had a striker who could score like that?
Yeah, I know.
It's been amazing. It's so much fun to go back.
Fun. And also listen to Martin's commentary in a bit as well, because he's like Martin's commentary is brilliant. He's so funny. I think it was the 96 one, or one of it. He was just absolutely crazy. I think he must have been on acid, bless him. But yeah, it's very funny.
Do you know what? I watched the 92, 93 VHS when I was a kid, like religiously. And I can remember pieces of commentary off by heart. And there's one game where we're playing, I think it's Oxford, and he pronounces Jim Magilton as Jim Magilton. And I grew up thinking that Jim Magilton was a different player to Jim Magilton because he'd said the name wrong on his commentary. And when I watched it back, I was like, no, that's Jim Magilton. And now I can Wikipedia and like, no, he was playing in that game. So my whole life I've thought Jim Magilton was a different player.
Jim Magilton.
I've just really just connected the dots. But thanks for that, Martin.
Cheers, Martin. Thanks.
Been living a lie for years.
He's been living a lie, yeah. And and the thing is, he always takes that so seriously in terms of the, he'll go to the press officer and get the proper and pronunciation for that player. But obviously, couldn't do it on the season reviews. I remember once we had when Jeremy was doing it, we had, I think it was Mika Hyde, would go up to him. He apparently went up to every commentator, every announcer, would say, because they call him Micah, and it was Mika. He says, "Call me, it's Mika Hyde, not Micah Hyde." Like, okay, okay, mate, all right. You know how to wind him up then for pre-match then. Anyway, so as I said, what we're doing, we're doing your Hammers 11. So what we do, we put a few parameters in. We try and keep it to a 4-4-2. That's not a problem for you and me. I mean, before I started this channel, I never knew what a left half was, and I don't think
I would say a left half is if you've got three at the back.
Yeah.
And you're just in front of where a left back would normally be.
Left half. I think so. Inside forward. It's like, I have no idea, but 4-4-2 is pretty easy.
No, I've gone 4-4-2. So
good. Thank you. The other one is you have to be alive to have seen them play.
Yes. I didn't know that was a rule. But
well, there we go. Good. So we obviously couldn't put in Bobby Moore, but we could put in Javier Margas.
Yeah.
Spoiler, in case you have, for example. But, and it's your 11, so you can talk about whoever you want to talk about. It doesn't have to be the best players. It could be, it's your players. So it might be the people you love the most, hated the most, sung to the most. It doesn't really matter, to be perfectly honest, Chris. Yeah. So for the Scull 11, who are we going to have between the sticks?
Well, I thought long and hard about this, and I think the attributes I want from a goalkeeper are that you just make me feel comfortable and I'm not sat on the edge of my seat or my heart is in my mouth at least once a game, which those rules rule out Adrian immediately, even though lovely man, met him plenty of times. But I've gone for Rob Green.
Yeah.
That era, I realise now I really took it for granted having Rob Green in goal because he was just such a safe pair of hands. He never really made many mistakes. I mean, he played for England in the World Cup. How many times I don't think West Ham in their history have had an England goalkeeper in the World Cup. He was just fantastic. A steady hand on the rudder. Never really had many big rickets, made some fantastic saves, and also is a bit of a leader as well. You felt like he really cared and he would offer kind of a decent bit of leadership in that dressing room where whatever team was around him. So Rob Green for me is our best goalkeeper we've ever had in my lifetime, looking back. Yeah. And I'm so sad he left after 2012. That was probably one of the saddest I've been, apart from relegate, about a player leaving. After we won the playoffs in 2012, I felt like he was such a core component of that team and he'd settled into being our goalkeeper so well. And we had Jääskeläinen come in after that, and he was never as good. Didn't tuck his shirt in for one.
I know, he was a very untidy player, wasn't he?
Untidy.
Just gangly.
Straight away.
Long arms. He was just quite gangly, weren't he?
Yeah, but a little mention for Bernard Lamar was when he came in. I was like, wow. Especially after the Ludo years, as I've just said, I can't believe how bad Ludo was in hindsight. Some of the goals. Have if you're watching this and you're interested in YouTube and a bit of West Ham history, have a look at Ludo's last game for us against Derby County. It's the worst game any goalkeeper has had for us ever. The first goal, he passes it to the Derby defence. The second goal he concedes, he comes out, tries to punch it, misses by about a metre, and then they just knock in an open goal. But you watch Ludo comes out of goal and then in comes Craig Forrest, and straight away Craig Forrest is much more capable. And then we had Bernard Lamar, who was just on another level, making some unbelievable saves. Didn't look like a goalkeeper. Wore tracksuit bottoms. Yeah, rare thing these days. But nothing for me in the history of supporting West Ham comes close to the comfort I felt watching Rob Green between the sticks.
Exactly. Bernard Lamar. I remember him famously. I remember he came out of the game. Obviously when everyone came out, Green Street was a nightmare for any cars that came up or down, decided to about 5 o'clock, and they'd get stuck, wouldn't they, in the traffic. And Bernard Lamar, his car came out, and he couldn't move. And they were literally fans on top of the car singing, we got Bernard Lamar, he smokes Marlboro Light or whatever it was at the time. And he was pumping his hand out there, and he was lovely. And I think I agree. Yeah, we haven't done too bad, I don't think, for keepers. It's you got Greeno, David James, Fab.
David James I never felt comfortable with.
Yeah, never
really. I mean, David James would make 8 world-class saves in a row, and then it'd just go between his legs. Yeah, you're I'd much rather consistency. I'd much rather...
Agreed.
just, you know. And then people say about Rob Green that he was a bit boring, or there's the stories about them being on the away coach to games. The players would all be like playing a bit of cards, whatever. Rob Green would be reading the Financial Times. That's what you need to be personality-wise as a goalkeeper. Like boring. Like just nothing, no hobbies, nothing going on in your life. Just sat quietly at the back of the bus reading the Financial Times, not joining in with the banter. Is it like it's a Rob Green for me? He has all the character types to be a fantastic goalkeeper.
And he does have a bit, you know, he's got a good bit of Twitter game. You know, he lauds on the fact that, you know, he's a European Cup winner now.
What a way to bow
I love that. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And he's quite funny Crouchy's had him on his podcast and stuff. He's been quite funny. Right, okay, Greeno is in. Let's go for left back.
I mean, I guess everyone's going to say this, but Julian Dix, the Terminator. Again, it's timely doing this Hammers 11 because you go back. I've been going back, like I say, watch those season reviews, and I mean that team he played in between like 92 and probably through to kind of 97. He was so much better than everybody else. It's insane. I think he was top scorer a couple of times. He got double-digit goals. I know he's taking penalties, but the goal against Man City he scores in the 95, 96 season where he marauders forward and just smashes the ball with the left boot. That 92, 93 season where we go up in second place, he is just scoring goals for fun. But also, you forget he had a lot of pace and he beat players. He was skillful. And he could deliver like really long passes and then just score goals as well. And then on top of all that, the leadership aspect, like just leading by example, absolute nutter. The fear he would put into opposition teams. He's one of those players that you, like, as a fan, you're so proud that they play for you because you know he's going to give you everything in that shirt, and you know how much it means to him. And like when you go back and watch him score those penalties in front of the Bobby Moore stand lower, how many players would score a goal like that and go right up to the fans and like punch the air, and the fans come over and kind of cuddle him? That happens loads of times. I think just literally the epitome of a talisman. Yeah. Like, I don't see how anyone could pick a West Ham Hammers 11 from the last 30 years and not have Julian Dix at left back. Because he's a great shout for captain. He just epitomises everything about West Ham. Yeah. Love him.
Yeah, you're right.
Although, honourable mention for Stuart Pearce, because when he come in, I remember when Harewood signed him, I thought, here we go. Like, this is classic. Like, Paolo Futre is going to play 2 games and never hear him again. But Stuart Pearce was Hammer of the Year. He was unbelievable for us. Such a, Julian Dix was out the game by then with his knee injury. But Stuart Pearce came in late on in his career, and he had a lot of that Julian Dix character. What a man to have around the dressing room. And I think he understood the fans. There's a lot of similarities, I think, between the kind of personality of Stuart Pearce and the West Ham fans. So he'd be on the bench for me in that left back position. But got to go with Julian Dix.
Got to go with Julian, as you said. He pings him in, and we've said it before. I can't think of many other left backs ever, not just West Ham, but ever, who had that effect on a team and a set of fans. Do you know what I mean? It's like it would be one of his naughty tackles or a 35-yard pinger into the corner or a penalty, and he would just galvanise a team from left back. Yeah, it's not the most.
I know,
absolutely mental. But yeah, Julian.
It's funny you say that about left back because I kind of grew up thinking left back was the best position on the pitch. Because not only was Julian Dix the best player for us when I first started supporting West Ham, but you think about England as well at national level, like Graham Lasso, Stuart Pearce. It was hard to get into that team.
It was
like left back. We had so many good left backs as a nation around that time. So I kind of grew up thinking left back was like a really core component of any formation. I was really stilted because of all these amazing players we had, especially at West Ham.
Yeah, especially and because of that, Julian never got the England recognition, which I think everyone assumed he would do at 96, and they said, he had bald head, so they weren't going to pick him and stuff. But all right, we'll put Dixie on the left. Other people we've had Razvan Rat. He's appeared in this 11. Vladimir,
like a marketing brochure 11.
Vladimir Labant. He was in there as well. But Razvan Rat for the pure reason, Charlie Walsh did it, pure reason of the selfie, the onesie picture with
unbelievable.
Right, okay, so put Dixie on the. Let's go for right back then, Chris. Who we got on the right back then?
So right back for me, it came down to 2 people: Sebastian Schemmel or the person I've gone with, Glenn Johnson. I think Glenn Johnson, that 2002-2003 season was amazing towards the end. It was a real kind of proto Great Escape, and we played unbelievable towards the end of that, and especially that run where Sir Trev came in and we almost pulled it back, ended up on 42 points. But the biggest component, the change that happened in that team was that Glenn Johnson came in. I think 18 years of age. He came into that team and he was sensational for 6 months. And you knew he cared so much about West Ham. You knew he was from the academy. And I think it's one of the greatest tragedies of that 2002-2003 season. And of all the seasons I've supported West Ham, that is the one that hurts the most by a country mile, because of the tragedy of what happened to that crop of fantastic young players who we genuinely could have kept on to. And if you have a look at what Glenn Johnson went on to achieve with England and with Liverpool, he should have been doing that for West Ham. And it was that cruel little twist of fate, that couple of didn't go away, Bolton, that we missed out on him. But no one back made a greater impression on me than Glenn Johnson did in that 6 months. And when I think about the best right-back performances I've ever seen for West Ham, it has to be Glenn Johnson in that time period. He was sensational. He was way better than everyone else. And you could tell this man is going to play for England plenty of times, which he went on to do. And like I say, an absolute tragedy. But honourable mention for Sebastian Schemmel, who came in, I think we paid $500,000 for him. And he was just, again, unbelievable. Won Hammer of the Year. And I can't think of any right-backs who've won the Hammer of the Year since. But got to give my right-back Glenn Johnson. Plus, he'd have that pace. Julian Dix on one side, Johnson on the other. We're going to have those real full-backs bombing on.
Exactly. That's what everyone loves.
Guardiola style.
Yes, what I like. Guardiola. That's brilliant. Right, okay, we'll put Glenn in. Totally agree. I had Schemmel in mine. That's just.
Oh really?
I think it was a toss up, really, to be honest. But yeah, Schemmel.
But Schemmel in that one season where he was good, because the season after he won Hammer of the Year, I think he was gone by Christmas.
Yeah, he was.
You're like, what has happened to you? I've never seen that's probably the starkest drop in form of a player, with the exception of maybe John Hartson, of any West Ham player, to go from Hammer of the Year to like, oh my God, you are rubbish in the space of 6 months.
It was. I know. Yeah. Right, okay, put Glenn in. Let's go centre-back. So who's going to be your first centre-back then, Chris?
So, and this has really been inspired through watching those West Ham videos, those old season reviews. My first choice centre-back would be Rio Ferdinand.
Yeah.
You watch it, but you forget as well how crap we used to be. Like, love Steve Potts, but he was never a kind of a proper Premier League centre-back. No. Colin Foster, players like that. I didn't catch Alvin Martin in his glory years. When I started following West Ham, I was like, who is this old guy we've got? I never knew the young Alvin Martin. But then you watch that team transition, especially around, I think it's the kind of 98, 99 season, that summer of 98, when Rio started coming into the team and he beds himself in. And you can watch in those clips, those highlights, those season reviews, he is a world-class player. And you can tell it almost immediately. I don't think at the time I realised how good he was. And everything changes around West Ham so quickly around that 98 period of time when Rio gets in the team. You don't see that transition from the old world Colin Foster, hack it up the field stuff into someone like Rio. I didn't really notice it at the time, but going back, he is such a world-class defender, and all that hype around him was genuine and real. And I mean, look at what he went on to do.
Yeah, exactly.
He was fantastic from a really early age. And the other thing I thought about Rio is, I think he benefited. I don't remember there being that much hype about him, not in the same way there was about Joe Cole. He never had any of that pressure, really. He kind of come through the team organically and was known as a really good kind of 18-year-old. So he never grew up with that shadow that was cast over him like Joe Cole was, having to sign the contract on the pitch and going, oh, remember your grandkids will be able to say that you were there the day Joe Cole signed his contract. He never had that pressure. And he was just sensational. He got to where he got to in the game just by being better than everyone else, having that dedication and having that skill on the ball that like defenders rarely have, especially at West Ham in that period of time. So, Rio Ferdinand for me.
Rio's in. Yep. Totally agree. Totally agree with Rio, as you said. Because was it 98? Didn't he and Joe go and train? And they went as like a auxiliary, like, kids along with the England squad for the World Cup or something. I think
it was
like
99. I think it was after we won the Youth Cup in 99. I think Keegan called up Joe Cole to train, even though he played a few games. But exactly. I mean, they were onto something. They knew
him straight away. Right, who's going to partner Rio then?
So I thought about this. It's fun. Like, this was a tough decision for me for the other centre back, and because in your mind's eye, there are some players who really stick out at that period of time, and I was like, are they sticking out because everyone else around them were crap? And I'd also put in this bracket Hugo Porfirio, because Hugo Porfirio was sensational when he came in, but that's because he was probably arguably in quite a bad team. But I've kind of gone with my heart on this, and I've picked Slaven Bilic to go in centre back alongside Rio. Yeah. And I think that again, I can't remember, Slav and Rio roughly came into the team at the same time, but that he was just so much better than anyone I'd ever seen before him. It was so calm, like he knew how to manage games. I'd never really seen a defender control the pitch and act like that proper leader. I don't think we'd ever really had that before. He was able to kind of draw fouls. He was get forward. The thing about Bilic I forgot was that he scored quite a few goals as well.
Yeah.
But he was just such a capable defender. And I remember when he went to the World Cup in '98 and seeing him in that semi-final against France, Laurent Blanc, getting him sent off. But that was the first time I was like, wow, a West Ham player who used to play is now doing something like this on the world stage. I felt so much pride. I think he might have left by that point. Yeah. But he was the first player I really knew become like a global celebrity.
Yeah.
Because I missed out. Like I say, people of my generation missed out on the Billy Bonds, missed out on the 60s and all that. By the time you start supporting West Ham in the late 80s, early 90s, we're like we're like a yo-yo club. Like the merchandise, cabin and stuff like. We are a Mickey Mouse team by the early 90s. Yeah. And then within 8 years, we've got Slaven Bilic playing for Croatia in a World Cup semi-final, and he is quality.
Yeah.
And again, I think it comes down to that transition in the summer of '98, where West Ham under Harry Redknapp change and become this amazing heavyweight club all of a sudden. And you see after that, we start finishing the top half of the table again, which was unimaginable a few years before. And a big part of that was Harry's ability to kind of find these foreign buys. And Slaven Bilic, I think, was one of the finest of all of them. And it's just such a shame he left when he did. Yeah. And that's the thing about West Ham, especially in that era, and arguably even today, when you've got a player like that who sticks out so much, there's always that bit of sadness in your heart because you know, good for us.
Yeah.
And that Slaven Bilic was the first time I really became aware of players being too good for us. I started supporting West Ham just after Stuart Slater had gone.
Yeah.
So, and I think Stuart Slater was the one before Slaven Bilic, who was the player who was too good for us and left. So that Slaven Bilic was the first player to really break my heart by leaving to go to, inverted commas, a bigger club. Yeah. Everton, where he just spent the next few years battling relegation and injury. So
exactly.
Should have stuck around. Shame.
Well, lucky he did. He came back, didn't he? So lucky he came back. He picked a good time to come back. He got a couple of good players in, didn't he? And something not a bad last season at Upton Park he had. So no, I agree. And I think and I'm pretty sure they played together. I'm pretty sure they were around the same time, weren't they? So, and someone said on Rio's debut that when he came on for Alvin Martin. It was his last game.
Really?
Someone mentioned that. Yeah, I don't know if it's true. If it's wrong, someone will tell me. So that is proper, sort of, passing of the torch, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really? But, right. Okay. Nice start. Okay. Let's go midfield, Chris. Who are we going to have left wing? Let's go left wing.
So left wing. I thought long and hard about this, and I've not gone for Joe Cole. And as we'll get on to, I couldn't really find a place for Joe Cole in my formation, as was the problem for most of his England career. But I've gone with, on the left-hand side, Matty Etherington.
Oh, yes.
Matty Etherington was the quickest player I'd ever seen play for West Ham up until that point. And his ability to just ping balls into the box, like expert crosses every time. There's no one who's been able to, he could just do it every time. He was like a robot, clip a ball down the line and just ping it in effortlessly every time. And in that season, in his era, we had like Harewood and Zamora up front. He was just absolutely lethal. And I never understood, well, I do know why, Etherington left. There was all these rumours about gambling, and I think he probably did need to get out of London, but I think he was such a sensational player for us and so much pace. And I think that's what you really need in any West Ham team, the ability to cut through. Every team needs it. But the ability to grab a ball and just race it up the pitch, especially if you're a team like West Ham who's going to be kind of on the back foot against the top teams more often than not. Ability for Matt Etherington to get a ball and just whip it up the pitch and get that cross in bang on every time. Sensational. I mean, after he left us, he would just damage us every time he played.
Yeah, you knew it. Yeah.
But yeah, I love Matty Etherington so much. I think he's my favourite left midfielder we've ever had. And like in my mind's eye, he's the fastest, one of the fastest players we've ever had.
Well, I think there's a lost art now in, typical wing play. Everyone tries to be so Guardiola and Klopp-esque, play people on the left, on the right, so they cut in and score goals. But there was something magical about a winger who could, as you said, ping it in front, beat the right back, clip it in. Simple. Yeah. It could be so simple, football. But Matty, good shout. Matty, yeah.
How many times has Matty come up? Does he come up very often?
First time, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, first time.
Surprised by that.
I've had Laser a few times. Old Stan Lazaridis.
Oh, no.
But yeah, no. We have Mark Keller. That's why I love this.
Two very frustrating players. But Etherington, for me, is just excitement.
Yeah.
Like that ability that he had to just... He scored lots of goals as well. You forget that. Like, having a hat-trick against Wimbledon, I think it was.
Yeah.
He was such an incredible pacey player. I'd like, in my dream West Ham 11, if I was to go watch this team, I would be so excited to see what Matty Etherington could do.
Yeah. And a sort of an in prime form of Julian Dix as well. The overlapping be quite special.
Man, what a dream left side that is for me.
Yeah. Right, okay. Let's go other wing then. Let's go on the right wing then. Who we've got right wing, Chris?
So this may be controversial. I don't know how often this man's name has come up, but I've gone for Dimitri Payet.
Yeah.
I'm always there's a noticeable tinge of sadness in the way I say that, obviously. But Dimitri Payet is up there for me with the greatest West Ham players I've ever seen. Yeah. He was on another level. The goals he scored, the way he dragged that team up by its bootlaces, beating players free. I remember there was a time towards the end of Upton Park where if we got a free kick outside the box, you would see people stand up and get their phones out like every time. I've never seen anything like that. To have that ability, he enraptured the whole stadium. He enraptured everyone who was a West Ham fan. The way we used to sing about him, I haven't really heard sung like that kind of passion about many other players in the history of West Ham. And he was there. He burned so bright and he was gone in a flash. But the time he had there, you were so excited for every game. Yeah. Every single game we played. If Payet's name was on the team sheet, I was so excited. And even now thinking about it, I'm getting excited. Yeah. West Ham have a video on YouTube, I think, of Dimitri Payet, all his assists and goals for West Ham. It's one of my favourite videos to watch because he's a world-class player. Got nominated for the Ballon d'Or.
I know.
Sure, I don't think there's I mean, Tim Breaker's not getting nominated for Ballon d'Or. I think in the history of West Ham, I can't think of, I mean, maybe probably more, I don't know, back in the 60s, but in the modern era, to have a player, as recently as 2016, he was nominated for the Ballon d'Or, and to score the goals he did, just watch, if you, like any fans who are young and maybe missed out on that era, watch the goal he scored against Middlesbrough. He takes it round. It's like it's a joke. It looks like it's like a comedy sketch. He takes it around to every player. Some players he goes back and beats them again.
I know.
And just bolts it in. And and he wasn't playing particularly well when he did that. It's just insane. And that moment at Old Trafford where he scored the opening goal and that free kick, I was behind that goal. One of my most cherished memories as a West Ham fan. He was just sensational and excitement and just everything you want as a West Ham fan in terms of like being able to look up to a genuinely world-class player. Yeah. Payet is where I want West Ham to be as a club. Yeah. That is the kind of excitement I want week in, week out. And the fact we had that for a little bit is brilliant. One of my favourite West Ham memories. And I can't leave him out.
No, exactly. And as similar to the whole sort of slab thing, it was the stars just aligned for that season correctly. The right manager, the right player. Bilic just let him go and play, and that's what you need. I think someone like I think you can say that with Joe. Joe was forced into positions where if he could have just played in a free role, Payet, he could have accomplished a lot more than people say he could have. But Dimi, totally agree. Most skillful player I've ever seen at Upton Park and London Stadium currently. Yeah. Hopefully that will change. I agree. And when people say, "Oh, the way he left," and people forget how he came to us. He did the same thing, and you get that with those sort of mercurial players on Arnautovic and things like that. They throw their toys out. They want to go and play for another club. And I was chatting
to Carlton about this, and he said, French players. That's French players. Like they're moody. You never know what they're thinking. You never really know, what's going on in their head. And I can imagine that about Payet. I never met him, but yeah.
And it was nothing of him, was he? Little stubby little bloke, but he could just beat 3 players with dropping a shoulder. He was an absolutely brilliant player. And as you said, I can't remember. Although I remember someone saying one of the video guys at the club was saying they would video him and Lanzini doing free kicks, and Lanzini had a better scoring ratio than Payet.
Really?
But I can't remember who did it, but it was one of the West Ham media guys. Anyway, we're revealing all the secrets today, Chris. Right, okay, we'll put Payet on the right. Let's go centre mid. Who's your first centre midfielder then?
So centre mid, holding role, it has to be Michael Carrick.
Yeah.
Just, it's funny that generation of West Ham players, because at the time I definitely took it for granted how good all these players were. And I think I've said it on Quickly Kevin, but you just assume that they're going to keep coming through forever. And Michael Carrick was one of that whole generation. He was probably at the back of the list. He wasn't really talked about in the same way as Defoe and Cole and Lampard and Ferdinand. But I think now I look back and when I watch some of those videos and you look at what he did in his career, he was genuinely world class again. You only need to look at what he's achieved in the game to see he was, for a long time, one of the greatest players in that role in the world. And I think he was great for us in that period of time as well. Go back and watch some of those season reviews around the kind of 2000, 2003 for that season where we're in the Championship. He sticks out like a sore thumb because that Championship level of football is like brutal, like really burly, balls in the air a lot. Michael Carrick seems like he's got hours on the ball, and you just, that's because of his class. You can't even really, I can't tell you what he's doing, but somehow he's got the ball in the middle of the park and he's spraying balls around. You've got no idea how he's doing it, how he's finding the space. And again, another tragedy of that 2003 season, because if we stay up and we like, I think probably keep Harry Redknapp as manager, if we're staying in the top half, you build a team around players like Michael Carrick. He was so world class. He was so good for us. He really loved the club. And I think in my all-time West Ham 11, the players I've seen, I would love to have him at the centre of that kind of defensive midfielder, holding role, Makelele style, like he was in the, what would have been, 03-04 season, just finding the space, spraying balls around and some of these are made, like get it down the line from Matty Everton to chase on. He was such a great player for us. And again, I'd love to see him back in a West Ham shirt in my fictional 11, because such a tragedy the way he left and the manner he left and who he left for and the money that they paid for him. Makes me feel sick. The other thing as well, that 2004 playoff final that we lost to Palace, he is fouled for a penalty. And I can't remember who the ref is. Is it Graham Poll? And Graham Poll said afterwards.
It was Graham Poll, yeah.
He said to Michael Carrick in the tunnel afterwards, I should have given you a penalty for that. It's like, well, we lost the game 1-0. If you're given a penalty, we score, goes to extra time, we may pull something out. We weren't playing great, but we could have got something. If we win that, you think Michael Carrick doesn't leave. And again, like if we go up in 2004, the whole world could be so different, and Michael Carrick's West Ham career could be so different. Another reason to hate Graham Poll. So it's such that tragedy of 2003, and especially that playoff final. But Michael Carrick, what a player! Definitely,
and I think he is a victim of when he was being born. Do you know what I mean? It's like if he was born, I think a couple of seasons either way, he would be in the same bracket. I think he's so undervalued as a player, not just at West Ham. I think Tottenham and Man United. I think he was very much under. But it's one of those things. I'm a great believer of the adage. You don't appreciate what you've got until it's gone, and that was so true with Michael Carrick. He tried so hard in that Championship year, but it was almost like he was too good for that division as well. So it's like it was just like he'd get beaten up.
Can't hang on to it. It wouldn't be fair to his career because he was such a world class footballer. But it's just an all round tragedy. But I always think about Michael Carrick. Sir Alex Ferguson always played him if he was fit. Big games, whatever it was. One of the greatest managers of the modern era believed in Michael Carrick. He got it. And when you understand the things he's doing, you have a look at Michael Carrick's stats. He is on a different level, and he's doing it so effortlessly that I don't think, as an average fan, you don't even realise he's doing it. But probably a bit like Claude Makelele.
Yeah.
He's actually pulling the strings on this game, and you can't even see that because he makes it look so easy. He also had that little turn where players would come in, like, he would just do it was like half a John Moncur. John Moncur had that little kind of Cruyff turn. Michael Carrick would just somehow, he would always be able to cut the ball just inside an on-rushing attacker. I can see it in my mind now. I never understood how Michael Carrick could do that. But again, it's just, he made everything look so effortless.
He did. No, he did, definitely. And on that Crystal Palace playoff final, even, I mean, I don't do many of them now, but for like years after that, if I was DJing at a party or something, and someone would come up and say, "Oh, can you play Glad All Over?" I wouldn't play it because it's ingrained in my head as this. I could just see a sea of yellow because they were all wearing the yellow shirts, weren't they? And then the Glad All Over. Oh.
Was it Sweet Caroline as well? Did they play Sweet Caroline? I feel like
I can't remember. We play it now. That's all right. Yeah.
I would actually say, while we're on the subject, that losing that 2004 playoff final is my worst moment as a West Ham fan.
Yeah.
I think I remember coming out of that game and just feeling totally bereft. I felt sick. I was in Cardiff, so obviously Cardiff. I didn't want to come back to London. I was just like, I just want to walk the streets. It hurt so much to lose. Like, it was a scrappy game. I think after the way we played in the semi-final against Ipswich, I've spoken to players about it, and they said they were probably too cocky. We'd played so well in that second leg against Ipswich under the lights up the park, which for me probably the greatest atmosphere I've ever experienced that game. It's almost like we just we went too early. We just lost our way, and that final was just awful. I've never watched it back. That would be one of those. I've watched England Germany in Euro '96 losing the semi. I watched that back. I don't think I could bring myself to watch the 2004 playoff final again. It would just make me sick. I don't think I've ever seen highlights of it. I just remember aspects of it. But it was awful. I found it so much worse than the two relegations I've experienced as a fan.
Yeah.
Because you got the pain of the relegation the previous year, amplified by the fact you've just lost the season, amplified by the fact you've got to do it again next year. You've got at least another year in the Championship, and you've got to think we're going to lose all our best players. It's going to be even harder next year. Yeah, I'm getting anxious talking about it. Awful.
I remember. And also,
I hope it doesn't happen.
It was the famous trilogy of 3 trips to Cardiff, wasn't it, as well? So it was like it was the first one, and it's the 2.5 hour car journey back, and it was so different as well because I was so it's like for the first time, it's you and me really. It's like we've never been in that situation where there was like a Wembley or like a huge game, a huge final. Yeah. And I just remember personally, I was always a fan. I mean, I loved Cardiff as a host of those type of games because like Wembley's so sterile, Wembley
and it's not a day out. Like you're on the tube for 40 minutes, and then you're like, it doesn't. I don't get. It's funny that because I don't really get that excitement when West Ham played at Wembley. Everyone's like, "Oh, we're playing at Wembley." It's like, it's the strap. You can change it and get the Jubilee line.
Get Jubilee
yeah. I've been to see it take that at Wembley. I didn't really.
Cardiff. I remember sort of they divided the city into half, really, don't they? And it's like, and I remember, and I think we had the same half. I think for all 3 times we've done it. And there was this. I just got this vision of this Wetherspoons. There was a massive Wetherspoons with like a 2-tier glass like window. And I just remember it was all you could see was just West Ham fans and some bloke's arse just pressed up against, just mooning everyone who went past. And that's my abiding memory of Cardiff, unfortunately. But brilliant. Okay, we'll put Carrick in.
All right, I just want to say like that 2004 playoff final. I remember after we beat Ipswich, and then we were like, our big day out. We're going to go play in Cardiff for the playoff final. I remember saying, even if we lose, it'd be a fantastic day out. I remember saying that. What an idiot. What the hubris.
Do your car
I remember after we lost thinking, I said, why did I say that?
Yeah.
It was awful. The worst experience I've ever had as a fan. Yeah.
I remember driving there and you put we did the ribbons because we'd never done this before. Like had this sort of massive game, had all the ribbons around the car and all the windscreen mirrors, and we got to the toll bridge to go over the. You have to pay your £5 to get into Wales, but you have to pay it to get out. And it was just West Ham fans, and there was a massive traffic jam, and they were honking their horns. And in the car, it was a lovely day out, apart from the result. But I
went with my uncle, and he brought along the hat he'd worn for the 1980 FA Cup final. So he had it in a bag. I don't even know how he did it. I think we got a limo as well. It's something weird like that. And he got in there. He's like, I've got my bag here from the 1980 FA Cup final. He got it out. and it was covered in blood. I was like, is that blood? It's like, I don't know what you call them, like the little kind of fabric hats. And I was like, what is this covered in blood? He went, I've just remembered I got in a fight after the 1980 FA Cup final, and he'd forgotten that it was covered in blood, so I had to stay in the bag. But you're right, yeah. What if it, like that first big day out in got 20.
It was, yeah. For us, it was our first big day out, and then we got a bit spoiled for a bit, and then that's it. Until obviously we went up again at Wembley, but right, okay. So my daughter was she was due on that day at Blackpool. I remember that really clearly.
Did you go? Of course you went. I've seen pictures of you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I went with. I was chaperone to Hammerhead and Bubbles the Bear.
Show business, eh?
Yeah, show business. And I remember 3:00. Literally, I had a pint and I had my phone in the other hand. And 3:00, the phone rang, and it was like a PPI call. I was like literally. And then 3 days later, she was born, and then I got into. Then obviously I knew the trophy was going to be, I think it was at Romford.
Yeah.
So Hall Church. So Romford, and I knew the security guy, I knew Eddie on the security guy. So I said, can I just nip in? You know, go on, Russ. Yeah, and I've got a picture of her in the cup. Like, she's like, poor cow. She's like, 3 days old. Bonk. That's it. Too late. You're done. You're done. Right. Okay. We'll put Carrick in. Who's going to partner Carrick in the midfield, then, Chris?
Controversially, some of your viewers may argue I've picked two Judases, but I've gone for Frank Lampard Jr. in that central midfield berth because, again, you watch that, 97, 98 V8 season review.
Yeah.
He's so world class. I'd never up until that point, again, you've seen people like Ian Bishop and like John Moncur was good. You remember Danny Williamson, but nobody like Frank Lampard, again, who just quietly went about his business. And he's stealing the show, providing assists, no-look passes, stuff like this. It was like seeing the world in 3D after everything had been 2D. That the way the West Ham team changes around 98 is incredible. And Frank Lampard is such a major part of that. He was such a good player for us. And I remember when he left to Chelsea, I remember thinking, oh, that's annoying, but that's all right.
Yeah.
But again, because you just assume there's going to be another Frank Lampard coming through. And it's like, I was kind of prepared to let him go. And when he went to Chelsea weren't that much of a bigger club than us at the time. That was pre-Abramovich. But I mean, he was always going to be a world-class player. And that famous Harry Redknapp interview where he's at Roller Bowl and someone says, I can't remember who the player is, it Lee Boylan or someone says, why are you playing Frank Lampard and not this young lad? And Harry Redknapp says, there's going to be no comparison between what Frank Lampard achieves and that other player. And you just look at it. He's won everything. He's played at World Cups for England. He just had that determination and the ability to just turn games on their head and score goals. When you look at how many goals he scored for Chelsea and also how many goals he scored for West Ham from midfield, I think what I'd like to have in my team is like Carrick sitting at the back holding role, Etherington, the man I'll reveal in a second on the right. But then, Frank Lampard kind of bombing on, getting on behind the front two, scoring goals. He should have become a West Ham legend. I think if he'd have been born in his dad's era, he would have probably had a similar career and won fantastic stuff. Yeah, just again, a tragedy of the modern era that we weren't able to keep on to him.
Yeah, I totally agree. Rollerball, God, dear, Collie, remember that? Still there, isn't it? Still there. There's a nice Indian restaurant there, apparently.
Is it?
Yeah, there's a nice at the top, apparently. Anyway, so for those who don't know, me and Chris live quite close to each other. Right, okay. You've already told us he's going on the right. You've told us Payet's going on the right. Anyway.
Oh yeah, sorry,
Payet. Don't worry. So that's your midfield. That's your midfield. Right, let's go up front. Who's gonna be sort of your goal guessers?
So, watching back over those season reviews, one goal scorer sticks out in the modern era. Refer, of course, to John Hartson, who was just unplayable in that. I think is it the 97-98 season. He comes in 96-97, saves us in the last few months, and then 97-98. Harry Redknapp brings in Trevor Sinclair and players like that to support him. Isle Berkovic and John Hartson is just scoring for fun. Yeah. Big, I've gone for a big man, little man-esque kind of thing deal here. But John Hartson, just an absolute brute of a man. And again, you come out of that period where it's like Tony Cottee, Ian Dowie, your strikers, and then suddenly you've got Hartson and Kitson. But Hartson was he was up there with Andy Cole. I think he might have just finished second in the Premier League top goal scorer.
He scored absolutely
but also the kinds of goals he scores, like headers. He's like beating keepers one-on-ones, making runs. He's scoring from 30 yards. He was just unplayable that year. Unbelievable player. I'd never really seen a striker like that.
No.
Maybe a little bit of Trevor Morley, maybe a little bit of Clive Allen in hindsight. But John Hartson had all the capabilities you want from a world-class striker. If you could capture John Hartson's form in a bottle that year, you would want it in your all-time West Ham 11. Yeah. And anyone who says otherwise is a liar.
and also, again, like watching those reviews, I forgot how much of a good player Berkovic was as well. And his the little through balls, it was just amazing. Again, if he was playing for a top 4 team, he would be one of the all-time greats.
I know. And I guess that Hartson kicking his head off is, again, one of another tragedy of the West Ham modern era, because them two were a great partnership.
They were, yeah.
And Hartson, after that 97-98 season, he came back and I think he piled on the pounds, I think, in the summer. But he wasn't quite the same player the next season. Yeah. And I don't remember Berkovic being either after he booted his head off. And it was like, I think that dynamic really did change. I think it hurt the team a lot. Yeah. But people say that kind of thing happened all the time in training. But I don't know if I believe that, because it really did.
Well, you don't know, do you? Well, I know we had Bertie Brayley on the channel, and his first ever West Ham first team training session was that training session. So he got called over. He got called over. Him, I believe. Yeah, obviously people go back and have a look at it. But he went. I think him and Joe got called over by Harry, and literally 5 minutes in, that happened, and. That was that's one of the last times he trained with the first team since then.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, again, very rarely does obviously him and Kitson, when they came in, obviously there was lots of protests and things like that, about the board and things like that. And then they came in and would just hit the ground running, didn't they, them two?
Oh, you'd never seen, as a West Ham fan, you'd never seen something like that before. No. You'd never seen two strikers who were that dangerous and could score that easily. That I think is it their debut. Is it coming? I thought it was their debut, but maybe now I watch those season reviews. I don't think it is. But that night under the lights against Spurs, where we win 4-3, March 97, I think it is. That just come in. That game. If you watch that season review, look at how everything changes in that game.
Yeah.
You got the wind. Like the idea of beating Spurs a few weeks ago was like unthinkable. You had like crap like Radachoyu. Hartson and Kitson come in and we scored 4 goals, having not really scored in the kind of weeks leading up to it.
Yeah.
It just changed. Hartson and Kitson just changed that whole team. And as a West Ham fan, you'd never really seen a striker come in and just light everything up like that. It was such a good player for us.
It's very true. And I remember Kitson, because I think Kitson, because I used to live in Loughton, and I think Kitson, I remember seeing him in Woolworths. Oh God, my Siri's just come on there for some reason. No, I saw Kitson in Woolworths with like the biggest bag of pick and mix I've ever seen. It was almost like a bin bag of pick and mix. I had this vision of him going back and just resting it and eating fried eggs, but it was just it was brilliant. I loved them as a pair.
What great goss for anyone who's still tuning into this point.
There we go. Exclusive content for here. Right, and who's going to partner Hartson then in this 11?
I mean, surely everyone is going to say this, but it had to be Paolo Di Canio.
Yeah.
Again, I've kind of picked this team around players that I find exciting and dynamic, and just make you so excited as a West Ham fan to kind of turn up and watch West Ham play. And Paolo Di Canio was, for a time, the most exciting player in the world. I mean, not only was he amazing for us, he really kind of permeated like the public cultural consciousness about footballers, like in a way that West Ham players have never really before, or maybe even since. Like him doing that Imperial Leather advert, everybody knows who Paolo Di Canio is. Yeah. I'm not sure there'd been a West Ham player in the modern era before that you could say that about. Maybe somebody like Rio and Frank and the players that come through then. But Paolo Di Canio was a bona fide like Hollywood movie star playing for us. And I remember I'd mentioned it earlier, but we had Hugo Porfirio a few years before. He came in and he was exciting, and people were really kind of excited about what he could do on a football pitch. But when Paolo Di Canio came in, it was a whole new world. Yeah. He is just unbelievable. The things he would do on a football pitch boggle the mind. So creative. He had pace. He would score unbelievable goals. And the passion, I think, is why he will be most remembered by West Ham fans, is the passion he had for West Ham. The fact he would wear his heart on his sleeve, typical kind of emotive Italian. Now I think back, he had all the attributes from like the player that, for a player that West Ham fans would love the most.
Yeah.
Creative, exciting, passionate, hardworking, dedicated, motivated. He dragged that team onto that extra level. I think we finished fifth around the time that he was playing. He dragged that team up, and also it was just such a spectacle to watch us play. It was so exciting, and everybody knew who Paolo Di Canio was. And you just watch his goals. Like if I haven't convinced you now, that goal against Wimbledon, the ones he scored against Coventry, that goal against Arsenal that was on the other day, that was the anniversary.
Shorts on backwards,
shorts on backwards. He's like a magician. It's like it's not even football; it's art. I think I tweeted that recently. The things he was doing are so creative, and never really seen anyone at the time do something like that. The way he turned players inside out, I love him so much. And there's no way I couldn't have a West Ham 11 without him.
No, exactly. And he just got us, got us as fans. There's not many players or even foreign players that say that who got that connection with the fans. And he still loves West Ham, and you saw his little he's got a tattoo. He was doing those keepy uppies and singing Bubbles in like a 1950s shirt, not even like a match worn shirt. Someone's gone and bought that, whether he's an agent or he's bought it himself. But still, it's ridiculously short shorts. But he was just brilliant, weren't he? And like someone was saying about it the other day, about Paolo, and I said, just watch that Bradford game. Find it. Because that encapsulated him. He was mesmeric. He was, he throw his toys out the pram. He'd fight with exactly. He was brilliant. He shouted. He nicked a ball. He fought with Frank for the penalty. But it was just Paolo, and I think we love those types of players at West Ham.
That's a great example of that Bradford game, because I always say, especially if we're doing something like beat the Batak at half time, but I say like we're in the entertainment industry. This is entertainment. Like I know it's sport, and I know we're here ultimately to play a game of football, but this is entertainment, and we're here to entertain people and make them feel different things. And that Bradford game is such a perfect example of how Paolo Di Canio was that, because he was frustrating. He was a genius. Like he was temperamental. In that game, you've got the whole kind of gamut of Paolo Di Canio emotions, where he's getting fouled unjustly. Like it's almost like a tragedy or an opera, that game, because he's getting fouled. He's getting frustrated with the ref. He's saying, "Take me off! I don't want to play anymore." You're like, who is this guy? And then he drags himself up, scores a goal, grabs the ball, brings it back. Like he's frustrating and a genius, but you can't argue that he is box office. You want to watch Paolo Di Canio play. And as West Ham fans, I was so proud that we had a player like that who had hit that public consciousness, who everybody talked about. Even now people know him as a character. And West Ham fans still so proud that he played for West Ham. And when he does stuff like that video where he's doing keepy up, he's in the West Ham shirt, it almost makes me want to cry. The fact a legend like Paolo Di Canio, that he chose to play for us, and he was as good as he was and made us as good as we were in that time as well, is still a constant source of pride to me. And I love him.
I think everyone loves him, to be honest. But as you said, no, he's brilliant, and that completes a pretty tasty team, Chris, I must say. I mean, with Payet, Di Canio. Oh, could you imagine? Together,
temperamental though.
And obviously this is for
this team, but I think all of them are handing in transfer requests within 6 months.
Exactly. And
except maybe Matty Etherington.
This is for home games, obviously, because anywhere north of Watford, Paolo won't play. So we can put Steve Lomas in anyway for the away games, but play one up front. Chris, it's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so
Cheers,
much.
Ross. Thank you for having me. I love that. So much fun to do.
It was really good. Thank you to everyone else. Hopefully you're still watching. It's been great fun. And obviously like, share, subscribe, obviously download and subscribe to the podcast, quickly, Kevin, and also the Footballer's Guide to Football. And also, the West Ham one, the West Ham Hammers at Home quiz as well. That'll be coming up soon. And until next time, guys, take care.